Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Streggy, and here in the room, here I have a review for you of a film that has to do with some real-life events dealing with Ted Kennedy and the Chappaquiddick incident that happened in 1969. This is a film directed by John Curran, who directed Stone in 2010 and in 2006 The Painted Veil. There is a series of events that Ted Kennedy, senator at the time, who is related to John F. Kennedy, and he was hosting a party on an island which was somewhere near Martha's Vineyard, with roughly about 6 to 7 female secretaries that had been part of the presidential campaign that was involved in Robert Kennedy's presidential campaign. And so on July 18th, 1969, on Chappaquiddick Island, which you can only get there by ferry from the town of Edgerton. The gathering was held in the cottage of Sidney Lawrence, and it was a reunion group with 6 single women, all in their 20s, and which included Rosemary Keogh, Esther Newberg, sisters Nance Lyons and Mary Ellen Lyons, and Susan Tenenbaum, and Mary Jo Kopechny, who ultimately, at the end of the night, apparently Ted Kennedy left the party at about 11:15 p.m. and proceeded to take Mary Jo Kopechny home. Somehow during their trip, the car drove off the road near a bridge, and somehow Kennedy survived, Ted Kennedy, and for 10 hours he didn't contact authorities about the accident. When 2 of his friends, actually one being his cousin and one being his cousin's friend, consulted him about why he hadn't talked to the authorities about it, especially since he was talking casually the next day to the winner of the previous day's sailing race, and gave no indication that anything was at all wrong. It was definitely a situation that could have been handled differently. And one of the things that I have to say about this film is I think that Jason Carrick, who plays Ted Kennedy, played him definitely to a T. Normally, you would think that a man in his position would have contacted the authorities right away, especially knowing that his family is the family that it is. But instead, he spent time talking to lawyers and Kennedy advisors, instead of going directly to the authorities about this matter. And meanwhile, Mary Jo Kopechny was struggling to keep from drowning, and she was played by Kate Mara. She seemed very beautiful as a blonde. Ed Helms played Joseph Gargan, who ultimately he was in charge of writing up cue cards and some of the speeches that were involved with the resignation of Ted Kennedy during this whole fiasco. One thing that I would like to say is that whereas we see a very little influence of Bruce Dern playing the father, where he just was literally seemed like he was ashamed of Ted Kennedy. He was in a wheelchair, and he slapped Ted Kennedy, and there was a moment there where he was unsure of himself, and you could tell that there was some tension. I mean, there had always been a drive to be a political party of some sort in the family of the Kennedys. It was a pursuit of, of the family line. I mean, it was a big thing to continue the Kennedy legacy, and it shows in the presidential candidacy of Robert. And it continued to show in Ted as he ran for senator year after year. And it is because of this incident that it stopped him from going and trying to become president. I think that at the time, it was very possible that Ted Kennedy had been possibly driving drunk, actually drove the vehicle, which was at the time it was a four-door sedan. It's possible that he had driven it into a lake, and he might not have known exactly, like he'd said. He did not know how he got up and out of there. That's one of the biggest mysteries of this Chappaquiddick incident, is how can the doors be entirely closed and Mary Jo still struggling to survive, and how could he have survived and gotten out of the vehicle in time, since there was no evidence of the glass breaking or anything like that, of that nature. The other thing is, where's the mother of the mother of Ted Kennedy during all of this? To me, it would seem like this is kind of a one-sided story of the drama that was going on behind the film. It would be at this point where where Ted Kennedy's mother would be very much involved in standing behind her sons, and there is no presence of a mother figure in the whole process, and she would have been alive at this point in time. So that is one thing that I would have to say about this film. I would like to think that that this was honestly just an accident, but there are many mysterious things that have happened to the Kennedys, and I thought this was an interesting look at the reality of the situation, of the events that led to the incident and the possible events that have led after. But there is my thoughts on the film. I'm not sure whether I entirely liked the film, but as far as truth and reality, I would have liked to have seen the mother's influence in the story instead of this just narrow or narrowly minded, focusing on him, and maybe even more of a glimpse to what the parents of Ted Kennedy were thinking, even though we saw that little bit of a scene that I was talking about. I thought that the acting was decent on all that were involved. I thought that um, there was definitely a political drive behind the Kennedys at the time. So, well, there's my thoughts and reaction to this film. I would like to see more done of this this story angle. I think this was a little bit closer to the truth, but there were things that I think that were missing, that I think could have had a fuller picture, fuller, um, clearer a view of the events that were involved in this film. In any case, hopefully you enjoyed my description of this film. If you have not yet, definitely like and subscribe to my channel. And I will definitely have some cool reviews for you. Politics are always hard for me to talk about, especially when it comes to real and factual inspired events dealing with a film. So I hope that I gave an insightful little description, and what your thoughts on the film are probably entirely different. So if you have seen the film, definitely let me know down in the comments what your thoughts of the film were. And thank you for listening, and have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are.